PENCOM says the 14.5 trillion naira pension fund is not idle. Security Council recommends ban of Natforce. NLC gives Zamfara State government 21-day ultimatum to pay 30,000 naira minimum wage or face industrial action. On business news, economic crisis, wars and job losses, and food prices soar. On international scene, China expresses willingness to work with Russia as great powers. And on sports news, Abuja Court stops 30th September NFF election. Hello there and thanks for joining us. That was the headline for Standard Voice Television News. I am Rahama Ibrahim Desar with the news in full. The National Pension Commission says the 14.5 trillion naira pension fund is not idle. It's also assured that federal government workers will no longer face delay in payments after their retirements. For more on the story, Sumaya Dosar reports.
PENCOM Director General Aisha Umar stated this in her submission to the Senate Committee on Finance at an interactive session on proposals for the 2020-2025 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper. She said the 14.5 trillion naira available pension fund was not idle as 9.5 trillion out of it is invested in federal government security, 1.23 trillion naira in equity shares, and 35% of the fund in the money market. She said the backlog of accrued rights component of pension payment to pensioners causing delay in payment over the years was almost cleared by the federal government. Mrs. Dahiru Umar said for the past 17 years, the federal government had been paying 49 billion naira per month to offset the accrued rights backlog of pensioners. She, however, advised pensioners to carry out required documentation a year to their retirement to fast-tracking the process. Sumaya Dosa reporting for SBTV News.
The National Security Council said the National Task Force on Prohibition of Illegal Importation and Smuggling of Arms, Ammunition, Light Weapons, Chemical Weapons and Pipelines Vandalism is an illegal organization. Interior Minister Rauf Arabishala, who announced this to State House correspondents after the Council's meeting, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari at the Presidential Villa in Abuja, said the highest executive security body in the country also passed a vote of confidence in the security chiefs in the ongoing fight against terrorism in the country. Mr. Arabishala, who addressed correspondence with Police Affairs Minister Muhammad Maigari Dingadi, also said the council, having expressed satisfaction with the performance of security agencies in the fight against insecurity, concluded that the administration hoped to end security challenges by December this year. President of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, Professor Emmanuel Osodike, said his union is willing to end its 7-month-old strike. Mr. Osodike, however, said this could only be achieved if concrete agreements are reached with the federal government. For more on the story, Kulsum reports.
The President gave the assurance in Abuja at a National Town Hall meeting on tertiary education tacked the locked gates of our citadel in national emergency. It could be recalled that the union embarked on industrial action on February 14, making it over 7 months since public universities across the country were closed down. The federal government recently sued ASU at the industrial court in an attempt to end the strike. Mr. Osodeke said they have given the government a minimum that they can accept, but they have not responded on the issue of revitalization, on the issue of earned allowances, and on the issues that they have all discussed. He reiterated the union's commitment to return to school if the federal government puts its proposal on the table, saying negotiation could be reached if the government is willing. Umukuthu Muhammad reporting for SBTV News.
The Nigeria Labour Congress, Zamfara State Council, has given the state government 21-day ultimatum to implement the constitutional national minimum wage of 30,000 naira or face strike action. The chairman of the state NLC, Comrade Sani Haliru, who briefed newsmen shortly after the State Executive Council meeting on Thursday, said the strike action was the only option left for the labor leaders. Comrade Haliru said as all promises, agreements and pledges made by the government have woefully failed, the labor leaders in the state have decided to go on strike after the deadline. He maintained that the state NLC has resolved to give the state government 21 days ultimatum, after which they would embark on industrial action to fight for their rights. Statistics obtained from the Lagos State Police Command have shown that 1,490 persons consisting of miscreants, street traders, traffic offenders, among others, have been convicted for various offences in the state. Newsmen gathered that the convicts were among the 1,709 suspects arrested by policemen for various offences in the state between June 1st and September 9th, 2022, a period in which the Lagos State government reviewed the state traffic law guiding the activities of commercial motorcyclists in the state. The review, among other reasons, came on the heels of the lynching of a sound engineer, David Imo, by suspected commercial motorcyclists in the Lekki area of the state. Our correspondent, Jamila Ibrahim, has more details.
The enforcement of the ban began on June 1st with security agents patrolling the listed local government areas for errant motorcyclists who had been protesting against the ban. Despite the protest, the government extended the ban to 4 more local governments consisting of Koshofe, Oshodi Isolu, Shomolu and Mushin on August 18. In the statistic obtained from the State Police Public Relations Officer, SP Benjamin Hundeyin, enforcement of the ban on motorcycle operation between June 1st and September 9, 2022 led to the impoundment of 4,694 motorcycles from recalcitrant commercial motorcyclists. Meanwhile, the Lagos State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Abiodun Alabi, said the enforcement of the ban on commercial motorcycles in some local governments in the state will be continuous in order to restore sanity to the affected areas. Jamila Ibrahim Dosar, reporting for SVTV News.
And let's have our business news with Sumaya Ibrahim.
Audio Jungle.
Thank you, Rama. Welcome to Business Text. Nigeria's inflation rate reached a 20% mark in August 2022, reflecting the rising cost of living crisis facing Nigerian families and firms. It was the biggest inflation number since October 2005, with the cost food hitting 23.12% on a year-on-year basis, representing a 2.8% increase from 20.30% in August 2021. On a month-on-month basis, inflation rose to 20.55% in the month of August, from 19.64% in July, according to the latest Commodity Price Index report published by the National Bureau of Statistics on Thursday. The CPI measures the average monthly change in the prices of goods and services in the nation. According to the NBS, the inflation rate was 3.52 percentage points higher compared to the rates recorded in August 2021, which was 17.0%. The percentage change in the average CPI for the 12-month period ending August 2022 over the average of the CPI for the previous 12-month period was 17.07%, showing a 0.47% increase compared to 16.60% recorded in August 2021. According to the statistics body, the increases were recorded in all classifications of individual consumption by purpose division that yielded the Highline Index. And that's all on business.
Thank you, Sumaya, and on international news.
Audio Jungle.
Chinese President Xi Jinping told his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin on Thursday during a leaders' summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in Samarkand, Uzbekistan, that Beijing was willing to work with Moscow as great powers during his first trip overseas since the early days of the pandemic. The SCO is made up of China, Russia, India, and Pakistan, and 4 Central Asian countries: Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. China is willing to make efforts with Russia to assume the role of great powers and play a guiding role to inject stability and positive energy into a world rocked by social turmoil. President Xi told his counterparts that they have been overcoming the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. He said they are extremely willing to use the meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization to exchange views on international and regional issues of common concern. Xi arrived in Uzbekistan on Wednesday and has held talks with President Shavkat Mirziyoyev on deepening bilateral cooperation and regional and international issues of shared interest. Calls are growing in South Africa for Britain's royal family to return the world's largest known clear-cut diamond in the wake of Queen Elizabeth II's death. The great star of Africa, Cullinan I, the diamond was cut from a larger gem that was mined in South Africa in 1905 and handed over to the British royal family by South Africa's colonial authorities, which is currently mounted on a royal scepter belonging to the Queen. Demands for the return of the Great Star of Africa and other diamonds, along with calls for repatriations, have intensified since the Queen's death. The Queen's death has opened up a conversation about colonialism and how it relates to her legacy. South African media has been debating ownership of the gem, along with demands for the payment of reparations. More than 6,000 people have signed a petition asking for the Great Star of Africa to be returned and displayed in the South African Museum. And let's have our sports updates with Kusum Muhammad.
Thank you, Rahma Ibrahim. Now in sports. The scheduled 30th September election to replace the outgoing board of the Nigerian Football Federation Executive Congress in Benin City, Edo State, is now on hold. This, according to Harrison Jala, the task force chairman for the Professional Footballers Association of Nigeria, comes after a court order allegedly. Mr. Jala said by choosing 30th September for its elective congress, the NFF family was initially attempting to break the law. He stated that a hearing in his lawsuit to modify the NFF statuses is ongoing and scheduled for 31st October, saying the choice of 30th September for the NFF election as a result is illegal. With barely 2 weeks to the eagerly expected elections in Benin City, the momentum has been high, with over 40 candidates cleared to vie for the different positions on the new NFF board. Still in sports, Ghana assistant coach George Boateng believes that the Black Stars will play their hearts out at the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar. The 2022 World Cup will be held between November 20 and December 18. The Black Stars' best performance at the FIFA World Cup was in the South Africa 2010 edition, where they reached the quarter-final, losing 4-2 on penalty to Uruguay after normal play ended 1-1 at the Soccer City, Johannesburg, on July 2nd. In an interview with newsmen, Boateng assured that the Ghanaian football team will have a good outgoing at the Mondial. The Black Stars have qualified for 4 editions of the FIFA World Cup in Germany 2006, South Africa 2010, Brazil 2014 and Qatar 2022. They are in Group H at the 2022 FIFA World Cup alongside Portugal, Uruguay and South Korea. And that's all we have in sports updates for today. Kusum Mohammed, have a pleasant day and keep watching Standard Voice Television.
Thank you, Kusum. And that's all we have for today's news. But before we go, let's take a recap at the major headlines. PENCOM says the 14.5 trillion naira pension fund is not idle. Security Council recommends ban of Natforce. NLC gives Zamfara State government 21-day ultimatum to pay 30,000 naira minimum wage or face industrial action. On business news, economic crisis, wars and job losses, and food prices soar. On international scene, China expresses willingness to work with Russia as great powers. And on sports news, Abuja Court stops 30th September NFF election. On behalf of the production team, Head of News and Current Affairs, I still remain Rahma Ibrahim. Do have a nice day and stay tuned for the House of Action with Abdul Majid Badamasi Anka.